I don't know. Well, no, that's pushing them off on someone else. But something had to be done, and it wasn't done. Um, Mochi's also said dude apparently was doing this before Cuban became owner, so no way he didn't know it was going on. So yeah, we were just talking about that. Cedric Galloway said Cuban turned a blind eye, hoping that it would just go away. Which, again, that's why it's a surprise because Cuban is not a dumb guy, and if you turn a blind eye, why would it go away? Why would someone stop doing something that they're getting away with? I mean, it's human nature. If you continue to get away with it, I don't know anyone that says, you know what, I'm gonna just stop. I've got enough. I got enough free clothes. I got enough free food. I got enough, other items or whatever. I'm just gonna stop. No, they keep going, and then it just becomes part of their reality, and then they just think that they're entitled to it. Mac Farrell said, dude is a pervert. Um, Mac Farrell also said Cuban got fined for talking about tanking openly. Yeah, 600,000 to the tune of 600,000. What else we got in here? Oh, Ron is out of here. He said, I got to jump out before I get in trouble. Enjoy the hockey game tonight, Olympic ladies. So appreciate you for joining in, Ron. Have a good night. What else we got in here? Cedric Galloway said Cuban better be glad that David Stern is not still commissioner because he would do his best to take his team away. And I truly believe that because they had some battles, and I don't. David Stern could be, that dude to be like, you know what? I'm gonna get your team. I'm gonna get, and get you up out of there. So, Mac Farrell said, first rule of tanking: never talk about tanking. Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. Angry Black Man is in here. He said it appears from what I read that Cuban sent dude for counseling and made him sign a contract not to be alone with women, and he could not date any coworkers. NBA will make league-wide policies around sexual harassment since they are a progressive league. Yeah, they will make a league-wide policy, but for like you just said, and then you make a great point. You point out a great point on here, Angry Black Man. It just seems like Cuban. It seems like Cuban was like, that's the homie. I gotta try and I don't really want to get rid of the homie, so let me do this. And that just was not the proper way to handle it. And like you said, he did it, but it seems like he valued the guy over everyone else. So this Mark Cuban thing, and I don't think it's going to stop here. I think this story is going to continue to develop. It's going to get hotter because now because they did interviews with people that they said that previously worked for an organization, also are current. So you got to think that people who did not speak are probably going to speak up even more now because now this thing is gained steam, and it's just like I want to get my piece out there about it. But it's just a sad situation where it's another instance where we got dudes that can't control themselves, don't know how to act, and then feeling entitled, to behave the way that they're behaving, and the consequences are not sufficient for their actions, because I'm pretty sure Earl Sneed, he's a writer for Mavs.com. You can't possibly tell me that none of the other writers somewhere in the city of Dallas or just in that writing community, community. Yeah, I finally got the word out. And that writers community didn't know about this as well. Maybe someone reported and it just got swept under the rug or whatever. But it's getting old. It's getting old, man. It's just like this is crazy. So, My fear is something crazy is going to have to happen to get these dudes to start acting right. Angry Black Man also said the Mavs CEO at one time was thought to be David Stern's replacement as commissioner of the league. Oh, that would have been, oh my God, that would have been horrible. Very horrible. So now let's get off that because we'll keep you up to date as news come out more and more, on this situation, because definitely it is not going away. We'll be probably talking about this probably for the next week, and then we'll wait and see how Adam Silver and them handle this and what goes from there, But I think what's going to happen is that they probably are going to do him like Sean Payton from the coach of the New Orleans Saints. They probably going to say, look, you can't be around. They're going to give him a hefty fine, but then they probably going to say, hey, you can't be around an organization, because we know Mark Cuban loves, that franchise, and he loves, being at games, and all that stuff. So they probably going to say, hey, you got to spend some time to in the bad person corner, because you let the ball drop. That was on your watch. So we'll keep an eye on it. Now let's move into the last topic before we get to the Big L Awards. Tomorrow we are back playing basketball. First games will be going on since the All-Star weekend, which they got a couple extra days, which was good on the NBA part, because normally they'll start on Tuesday, which to me, the guys that played in the All-Star weekend didn't get a break. So now that they get a break, they'll be back Thursday. We get some things, going. So my question for the listeners that's listening, you listen to the Wait a Minute show on the Two Live Stews Radio Network, is what is there to look for the remainder of the season, for the regular season? Because before we get into this playoff, so there's a few things that I have questions that I will be looking at and keeping an eye on to see, how things will play out. And one of them is the Golden State Warriors. They had the whole thing with, Steve Kerr letting them coach against the Phoenix Suns, and all that stuff, and whether that was disrespectful. But what I'm looking for from this team is Steve Kerr's voice really going to get old? Will these guys maybe be a little bit too confident, to go in? Because it's human nature. We as fans, we look at this thing and even we're like, man, this should be a cakewalk for them. And there's no way that they can't be thinking like, we all right. We going to do what we need to do, when the time is right. And that's normally where things fall apart and you get caught slipping. So I'm looking to see how they're going to finish up this season. Are they going to put everyone on notice, that don't forget, even though Houston right now, technically, this definitely could change as soon as the games start back tomorrow. But Houston is number one in the Western Conference. It's just like, don't get it twisted. We still, run the West and we run the league. You got guys like Draymond, you got Steph, you got Clay, you got KD, and it's just, and you got Kerr, that do these things. So will this get old? This message that the Warriors are listening to Kerr, and it affects them in the playoffs. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they're gonna go into it after the regular season into the playoffs. And see if they can turn that switch on. I know it's crazy, as good as this team is, you're talking about turning on the switch, but there are some games that they lost that you are surprised that they lost. And it could just be interest. And the last thing you want them to do is go into a series and slip up a game or two, just thinking like, yeah, we just going to get to the finals, Mac Farrell said that he's looking forward to seeing which teams get the number one pick in the draft. That will be interesting, as well. This will be the last year, Mac, where they're going to, the team with the worst record get the most ping pong balls. So after this next draft, it'll be a different format. The other thing is the Rockets. Are the Rockets ready to turn this thing up? Because this is about to heat up. I just talked about them being, number one overall best record, but also, in the Western Conference, you know, um, they are probably on a crash course, to see the Golden State Warriors, because you got to think if they don't hold this lead that they have on them, they're probably going to finish, second, maybe at worst. But you got San Antonio, who is behind, and they're not. You got to really think they're not going to catch them. They're like 9.5 games behind Golden State and 10 behind Houston. So this is a two-person race. Can Houston turn it up, get ready? Is James Harden going to really, because I think everyone got him winning the MVP, so you don't have to worry about that. Is CP3 and James Harden going to turn this thing up going for the rest of the season and then going into the playoffs and really make some noise? Because they should be able to take care of any of the teams that they see and really be looking for Golden State. Will they be looking for Golden State, or will they just kind of be like, yeah, we're a year, two away? On the East Coast, the Toronto Raptors are number one in the Eastern Conference. Boston has followed them in second, and Cleveland is third. So you got to think, because Cleveland is behind 9 games, sorry. They're 9 games behind. So you got to think Cleveland's not going to finish probably nowhere in the first place or second place unless Toronto and Boston just falls apart. But here's the reason I'm asking this, is that will the number one seed help Toronto? And I think this will. I think they need to finish number one. And the reason why is they don't need to see Cleveland or Boston nowhere in the second round. They need to, if they run into Cleveland or Boston, it has to be in the Eastern Conference Final. If everything plays out, like it is right now, they'll see, let's just say it goes chalk. They'll see Boston, in the Eastern Conference Final. But at least they avoid Cleveland. The last thing you want is to come across maybe a team that you struggle against, and then you go in. Fish was just talking about this. They beat up on you, and you win, but they weaken you for that next round that you go in, and then you see Cleveland sitting there, and then you got a problem. So I think for me, the number one seed is very important, for Toronto, and that's just so you avoid these teams. But then when you see them, you don't want to have a situation like the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta Hawks, 60 wins, in first place, and then they got to the Eastern Conference Final and found out what playoff ball was like. And they have played Cleveland, tough at times. So they're not going to get swept. I don't think they would get swept, by Boston or anything like that. But you don't want to have that false sense that, hey, we're number one and this is our time. No, it's not your time until you make it your time, But I do think the number one seed helps out Toronto more than anybody else in this situation. Last thing is, what are the Cavs? What are the Cavs? They made all these trades at the trade deadline, and to me, they went from a team of questions to a team of less questions, and it's this Larry Nance and George Hill and Clarkson, and all this. Is all this stuff going to work? Is this enough to get them past the Eastern Conference again and get them into the NBA Finals? And is this enough to battle either Golden State or Houston if they should see one of them in the NBA Finals? That's what I'll be looking for. I'll be watching, this team, how they, the short time that they got to mesh. It's only 23 games left in the season, which that'll be over very quickly because playoffs will really start around about April, probably like mid-April. So we're talking about 2 months to get it together, where we was trying to get, you had this other team, they went to training camp, or whatever it was, if you want to call it training camp, but they went to training camp and they played with each other for 5-6 months, 4 or 5, months, and they couldn't get that chemistry together. So it's how is this team